Anyway, today I thought some of you are starting for the first semester in the uni, right? And in life school, we have a lot to learn anyway. Whether we are in the uni, whether we are in the first year or second year, it doesn't really matter. We have always a lot to learn. That is one thing I have realized. Now, I thought we will call this workshop seminar series Inner Transformation because that's what is required many times. It's not just the external but more internal. And today I thought we will speak about something which is important. It is emotional freedom and dealing with negativities, right? Negative emotions. Do we have some negative emotions sometimes? I think I can lift my hand up bravely. Yes, we do have different kinds of negative emotions. Can you name a few? That sounds to your mind.
Despair.
Despair, alright. Anxiety, yeah, such a common thing, right? Anxiety, stressed out. It's just the beginning of the semester. After a few weeks, when there's a time for assignments or submissions, we feel it. Anything else? Stress, anxiety. Anger, right? Things don't go our way and we become angry. It can come out as a thought, as words, as action, right? Anger, everything. Anything else? Very simple.
Sadness.
What is it?
Sadness.
Sadness.
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt is a big one, right? Am I doing the right thing? Right? So, if we go on, there will be a big list of negative emotions, right? We go through it, it's part of our lives. And if we discuss about this particular topic about negative emotions, one very important thing that we need to understand is we really worry about things, right? Have you noticed? It can be stress, it can be depression, it can be resentment, but in any situation, we go through the phase of worrying. Have you noticed? The mind is going through the same thought again and again. Mind is reading, and it is not taking us anywhere. As it is said, worrying is like sitting on a rocking chair and rocking it. You can rock as long as you want, but it doesn't take you anywhere. So that is something we do experience, and when we experience something, when it is very intense, even if it's very stress and anxiety, when these emotions are very intense, we can even go to bed. It may take time to sleep, but when you get up, the same thought can come back. Have you noticed? We thought, got a break from it, out of it, but when we are okay, how come the same thing is coming to my mind? How can I get rid of it? Right? It is like sometimes you drive, you go to a muddy place, muddy road, the car tire gets stuck. You can press the accelerator as long as you want, as hard as you want, but still the wheel just rotates. It doesn't take you off anywhere. It's just stuck there. So this is the state of mind that we do deal with. The reason can be many things, but when we get into the worrying mechanism, it works in this way. I was hearing a story of a person who later became successful. He's from a very wealthy family. Okay? He from a migrant American, came overseas, lived in America, very successful family, made a lot of money into business. He said he had his first sports car when he was 16 or something like that. So he had a very affluent beginning. So he used that for some time, and they had a major collapse. They had a major breakdown. The whole business got shut down. And they were up there in terms of the affluence. Now, their life came down to a mediocre middle class family level. He was telling his story that his parents couldn't adjust to the situation. Because when they pass through the area, they see their friends, they are living in different kinds of life, and they are not there with me anymore. And they had to make a decision to move to another country. So they were in LA. They couldn't live in LA anymore. They couldn't even live in America anymore. They moved to some other country altogether because they couldn't accept the reality. They couldn't deal with the reality. Imagine how strongly they felt. And he said they had such an affluence, and they went into a country where you cannot make a direct phone call. It's many years back. You cannot take a mobile and just call. It doesn't exist. So, how much impact they had? If you think in one direction, they had sufficient to live, they had a roof over the top, they had something to eat. Things were okay. But think about the stress they were in because of change in status. Right? It's a big stress, for example. And then he had to do a lot of self-reflection to understand what's really going on here. Later, he came out of it. So it's interesting. People can bounce back. So if you want to be successful, we had to be ready to bounce back. We can hit rock bottom, but we had to bounce back. And that defines real success. And that is a real life lesson. Otherwise, it's not going to work because everything is not going to be the same way, isn't it? Right. Worrying, that is something we need to worry about, but not worry about. So, if you are going through this worrying emotion, worrying phase of life, what are we missing out? What are we really worrying about? Have you thought about it? You're worrying about in terms of time.
The future.
One can worry about the future, right? What's going to happen in the future? That's one kind of worry. What is the second kind of worry? Past, obviously past. Worry about the past. Why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? Or why did she behave like that? Can be the sentiment. So it can be the worrying about the past, or it can be worrying about the future. So in this game of worrying, what are we missing out? Exactly. This is what we do many times. We lose the present. The reason being, we can do something only in the present. We cannot live our life in the past nor in the future. If you want to do something, it has to be present. So in the worrying mechanism, we lose our present, precious present. So this is one thing we need to remember, that don't lose the present, because this is where we can make a difference, where we can change the future, not getting caught up in worrying about the future. So that is one. And even when you take into this emotions, if it is a depression, one thing negatively, I'm a failure, nothing is going to go good. In the sentence, why such a person behaved me like this? Just keep worrying. And we lose the precious present. And in stress and anxiety, we cannot really perform up to our capacity. Because there is such a mental block that's been created by the stress that we are literally carrying something. If we are literally carrying something very heavy, we cannot run fast. Similarly, our creativity is just gone, isn't it? Have you noticed? Under stress, will you be creative? Not really, very difficult. It's hard. One is relaxed, one will be more creative. One can get more things done. Of course, a bit of pressure can be okay, but when it increases, it affects our efficiency, productivity, everything. Now, I'll just go through. I found it's very interesting. There are negative emotions and there are positive emotions. Which is most impressionable in our mind? Negative. You can see that. It's negative. So if we had everything right, but if something goes wrong, we think about what went wrong. So it's just one thing on one side, but that can weigh so much, unfortunately. This is the nature of the mind. So this is the nature of the mind. It is very much inclined toward getting an impression in the negative side. You can weigh in that direction very easily, despite we have so many good things. So we have to remember this point very much, because without that, we will not be able to tackle this very effectively. So mind is impressionable, and because of this reason, you see here, we discussed worrying about the past, and also it's an imagined present or future. We worry about future, but we are simply imagining. Am I right? We are projecting. It's not necessarily a reality. As is mentioned, do you know how many thoughts cross our mind on a daily basis, approximately, according to the studies? Give a guess.
2 million.
2 million. That's a lot. A bit less. Not so many, but give it a go. 30,000. Yeah. Bit more. How many? 50,000, closer. Maybe about 60,000. There are different studies tell different things, but 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day cross our mind, and in which a certain percentage we worry about. A few we worry about it. But a study has shown that of the things that we really worry about, only maybe 2 or 3% becomes the reality. Can you imagine? We worry about it. If you consider the whole worries that we have, the reality is 2 or 3%. This is very minimal. In other words, we can see how our mind tricks us. We see it's a lot of worries, but they are not realities. That's why it's mentioned. They are our imagined future. Yes, Steve is the person we discussed. Yeah, here, see this? In our life, so many things will be going on right? Isn't it true? Even if we have some worries, even if we are really worried about something, please understand it is just something, it's not everything. And so, we can definitely see that in our life there are many things which are going all right. Some things are not all right. So, when you get trapped into that one thing, life becomes miserable. It's just where we focus. Just like a black dot in a white paper. We focus on there's a black dot. Oh, there's a black dot. Everyone says there's a black dot. But there's other things, a lot of white space there. That is our life. So please open and see in our life there are many things which are going good. Am I right? We have experienced some negative emotions, some can be intense. But even at that point, few other things in our lives were going all right, isn't it? Also, if you really get into such negative emotions, we may feel helpless. What can I do? Because can't control the mind, and it's reading, it's just going on. One is quite disempowered and helpless. That is the reason. It's just like if the car tire gets stuck in the mud, just pushing the accelerator is not going to do any good. That's not enough. What do we need? Car is stuck. What are you going to do? Will you still sit there just doing nothing? What do you do?
Call for help.
Call for help, isn't it? Get someone on board. Give it a push, right? Don't sit idle. Then something will happen. So this is the principle in dealing with negative emotions. Do something about it. So today's our seminar is about doing something about it. And to do something about it, we need some knowledge. And we discussed a few points, and we'll go further. How can we deal with that? So, few points to be understood. One is about the emotions. See here. Any idea what's going on there? It's our life. Many things are gathered by our senses, right? Right now, if you have a cake, chocolate cake, you want to look at the slide, you want to look at the chocolate cake, right? Is it for me? So the eyes are attracted, the tongue is attracted, the senses are going everywhere, and all the sensory inputs are going where? Everything is going to the mind. So the mind is the central point. All the activities, everything, ultimately everything is centered around the mind. And as we discussed, there are so many thoughts which are going on in the mind. So there are thoughts, and there can be attachments, and that leads to emotions. Thought in itself is fairly inactive, it's fairly neutral because it is just crossing the mind, it's just fleeting, right? However, when we get attached to one of the thoughts, when we dwell into that, that leads to emotions. It's just like if somebody is walking, we don't really have emotion for that person. But if we have a connection, then there's an emotion. Is it right? You read the newspaper, some accident took place, or there was a tsunami, or whatever. If you read the newspaper, yeah, you say, yeah, it's bad, right? Still, do you skip your meal? Do you eat your breakfast? I do. I read the news, but still I am able to eat my breakfast, no problem. Why? Because they are not directly connected to me. Am I right? But if it does happen in your country, immediately you will be more interested. You will start thinking, oh, where is it? Right? If it is Europe, you start, which country? And if it's your country, you'll be more interested. Then, if it's your state or region, you'll be more careful what's going on. If it's your city, you'll be even more careful. And if it is some of your neighborhood, you'll be super careful. Am I right? So, if there is a connection, when there is a connection, there is some attachment. And when there is attachment, there is emotion. So this is how it works when it comes to any thoughts. It is fleeting, but something interesting, the whole attention goes there, whole energy goes there. So even when you deal with negative emotions, we need to see this point. Now, even though there are so many thoughts, there are so many aspects to my life, now my attention is going on one thing. And all the emotion, there is attachment to that, there is all emotions, energy, everything is flowing in that direction. Right? So please understand this factor that from thought to emotion. Emotion means there is a connection, there is an attachment. Are we good? Go to the next one. Next, we do make a mistake, which is I and mine. Okay. There is I and there is mine. There's a difference. It's a Melbourne weather, right? Yesterday was very sunny. Today it's cloudy. Good that it's not. It's just drizzling. It's not too bad. But Melbourne, anything is possible, right? I've been living here for more than 20 years, I know. And some of you are brought up here. So you know how it works. And if we base our emotions to Melbourne weather, what's going to happen? You can see what's going to happen. We'll be bright, smiling, or many times we'll be morose. Right? So, can we do anything about the weather? No. No, because it's out there and you don't have a lot of control on that. So here, the same point, if you see, if you think I am the emotion, it is just like thinking I am the weather. My happiness is dependent on the weather. That's it. Then you are putting a condition on your mind, and it's not going to work. Similarly, if you think I am the emotion, there's a falsity according to yoga wisdom. We are deeper than the emotions. We have emotions, but I can control and we have a misconception that I can control the object of the emotion. Say for example, if it is about something happened, someone spoke something to us, a resentment. We think that we can control that. Can we control that really? It happened. We really can't control. So here we have a misconception that I can control the object of my emotion, and second misconception is I am the emotion. Please feel for this point. Just think about this point. I am the emotion. Can we take a step back from our emotions? Yes, we can if we really want. Even if it is something going wrong, still we can always take a step back and see that I am observing what's going on in my mind. Can you do that? Have you tried? It is good to do that. We can always take a step back and we can be a witness to our own emotions. From there we can understand I am not just this emotion, but I am an observer to this emotion. But if I want to be, I can be attached and I can worry with the emotion. Can you see? We can go down, the downward spiral can go with the emotion. But we don't need to. It's very important point. I am the emotion, that's a misconception. Second misconception, I can control the object of my emotion. Because the object of my emotion can be anything. And generally, they are out of control. We cannot control them directly. We can endeavor, but still not in our full control. But we want to do that. This is what they show. And so, what can you do? A few points to consider. Alright. Work on what is within our control in the present. If something is within our control, do it now. Stop worrying and start doing something about it. Point number one. Any thoughts on this? I don't think anyone can disagree on this, right? It's straightforward. But when the time comes, it's not so straightforward. Have you noticed? Yes. Yeah. Cultivate a perspective to distance ourselves from the negative emotions. So at least theoretically it is good to know that I am not the emotion. It happened to one of my friends who was giving a talk in one of the universities in America. And a student came across, he was disturbed, he sat for the whole talk and he went away. 1 year later, my friend went and gave the talk at the same university, the same classroom. Okay, so it was his yearly visit. The same student came after the talk, spoke to my friend who was the speaker. He told, last year I came, I had decided to commit suicide because my mind was really going crazy. I really didn't want to live a life. And in the talk he heard more and more that we are something different from our emotions and something different and deeper from the mind, something which you are deeper. Then he decided not to go for it. He understood it is the mind, it is still external. And then he decided not to go for that. Later, after 1 year, he came and thanked him. Can you imagine? So it's a big thing. Even the mind is going crazy. Theoretically understanding that we are deeper than that, it is something which is valuable. So, yes, we'll discuss how to do that. Practically speaking, one is reflection, second, meditation. In meditation, we are able to turn off the mind or can elevate the mind so that the mind is not now dwelling in negativities. That's what we will do now. We can do a meditation, music meditation, mantra meditation, where we can get absorbed in the mantra, spiritual sound vibration, where the mind doesn't go to negativities. After some time, it actually settles. So much of experience I had doing this meditation, where mind is initially disturbed, and after some time, mind gives up. We don't have to give up. Mind will give up. Then mind is positive, happy. And so that is, then we can see, yeah, it's just the mind. Mind is doing all this crazy stuff now, it's all good. Can you see that difference? So this is a practical way of cultivating the distance through knowledge and through practice. Yeah, this is the one meditation and positive association. Be with people who are positive. If you see smiling face, you feel good. So do that. Important. Break free from negativities by counting positive. Very, very important. One can write down. If you want, you can write down what is going good before what is going bad. Write down what is going good helps. So on a deeper level, we understand that the real happiness is experienced within, but it is deeper than the coverings of the mind. Mind is only a covering, but the real self is deeper. And we have the potential to experience happiness in a deeper way. Even though on the surface level there can be disturbances, just like the ocean. Ocean has a lot of waves, they're huge, but deep down it's calm. That is the reality of ourselves. So that is the deeper wisdom on yoga and meditation. So with this I conclude and see if there are any questions or any thoughts, any reflections.
I guess one reflection I do have is we can also train our language to disassociate from the mind. Like instead of saying I am feeling, or like instead of saying I'm angry, you can say I'm feeling anger. Or my mind is feeling anger. And already that trains your brain to disassociate from directly identifying with the emotion.
Yeah. It's my mind, my emotions. It's not I mind, I emotions. Good. Shall we move on to the practical side of it? So we'll have some meditation. Thank you.